Welcome to the mildly amusing, intensely insightful no talk show, The Power of Self Challenge. Dad, you have the floor.
Thanks for that outstanding intro, Nikki. You can see that my tooth is missing again. I really want to develop a solid connection with you, so I upgraded. Nikki, assist me, please. See, Bluetooth. Nikki, what's with the disapproving scowl?
That's a lame joke, Dad.
Well, I'm a lame dad. Let's see you do better.
Just expect it when you least expect it.
Yippee. Finally the finale. In the first episode I introduced my vision as thus, treating each other in a way that yields true understanding, so that differences become enriching instead of divisive. Adopting the foundational mindset for treating each other and self naturally enhances our understanding of each other and self. With such understanding, we find that our differences enrich and unite rather than divide. So as we elevate discourse, we eliminate discord and enhance understanding. Wait, there's more. True understanding expands our own perspective. It often reveals something we need to change. This episode is all about actively seeking what we can change in ourselves. That's where we find the biggest bang for the buck. Obviously, others need to change as well. Seeking to right the wrongs of others can be a noble endeavor. Although I'm not addressing that directly, I will say this. In my experience, some people simply feel more deeply and are more passionate about causes and pursuing change. As a society, we need such people. Hats off to them. They bear a heavy burden. Not just because changing others or the system is difficult, but because they tend to be more sensitive, which is a difficult virtue to bear. Furthermore, since we all tend to assume others think like us, they may assume we naturally care like they do. I imagine it's painful to feel that your concern for others isn't reciprocated, and that you toil away while the rest of us just rest in our cocoon of apathy and selfishness. Hey, how about the rest of us join them, or at least support them? Regardless, all of us can still benefit from focusing on what we can change in ourselves. A few personal stories illustrate this. Early in our marriage, I would often forget to hang my wet towel. It wasn't intentional, it just wasn't a habit, nor did I readily notice a wet towel lying around. But my wife did, every time. There I was trying to develop a good habit, and she only noticed when I failed. I would think, doesn't she understand positive reinforcement? I'm trying, but it'll never be good enough because I'm going to forget once in a while. It's a hopeless cause and it's her fault. Once she changes, I can change. Yikes. Do you see where this is headed? Luckily, a simple event corrected my thinking. We both walked through a friend's garage. She commented on the mess, but I only saw the basketball. Suddenly, I realized I didn't have to wait on anyone to change. I could just conscientiously add a wet towel to my filter of what I noticed. Voila. Problem gone. Years later, when we moved into a house with a shower curtain, my wife asked that I close the curtain after showering. The new me kicked into gear and the shower curtain was a complete non-issue. Why is it that we tend to find fault in others, blame them and wait, often impatiently, for them to change first? The blame game can breed a host of ill feelings, and it is nearly always pointless and fruitless. Not because the other party has no blame, but because it transfers our attention away from what we can do about it. Why not ask instead, what could I have done to prevent it? What I'm proposing can come across as very crass, especially for the innocent suffering from abuse or the like. Admittedly, only parts of this apply in such cases, like not waiting for the perpetrator to change or be punished. Rather, once you're out of harm's way, work on healing yourself as quickly as possible. The goal is to live your life completely free from the effects of the perpetrator. I recommend professional counseling. Even if we have never suffered such trauma, counseling can only help. It has helped me and my family. Like I've said before, we are all victims of our own limited experiences. A counselor sees beyond our limits. Self-help seminars and books can also expand our vision and empower us to adjust our perspective. Let's also train our children to focus first on what they can change, to take responsibility for their own actions, or lack thereof. So, when Susie comes complaining about what Timmy did to her, hear her out and then say something like, I can talk to Timmy about his mistake, but what could you have done differently? Looks like we have a question from a man that is covering his name tag. Go ahead, Mr. Anonymous.
That all sounds good, but what if I made no mistake, like when I'm driving safely, but my wife still gets on my case?
An outstanding question. Let's time travel to my life years ago. I'm driving on a trip and like always, my wife watches my speed and warns of any perceived danger. I fancy myself a good driver, so her backseat driving insults my intelligence or sense of independence. Of course, to keep the peace, I suffer in silence. Likely because of this tendency, our counselor recommends that I approach her about it. Before the right moment arrives, I witness my wife and her sister in several backseat driving episodes. They are all complete non-events. I'm scratching my head in awe. How can anyone not be annoyed? Are you with me so far? Here's the rest of the story. Separately, I had embarked on an adventure of sorts to try to understand my wife better. One fruit of that endeavor opened my eyes. I realized that such warnings from her come simply and solely from a place of concern. She's not analyzing that it might insult my sense of independence. Why would she? The mere idea of one's ego being tied to their being independent or a good driver is foreign to her. Now, with a more understanding heart, I find it endearing that she is always watching out for me. Wow. And that's how backseat driving changes from annoying to endearing. Oh, how quick we are to assume that others think like us, and how wildly different their thinking can be from ours. So for years I suffered needlessly, prisoner of my own premises, powerless to change because I didn't know what I didn't know. Hale yonder, hanging out in the hall, a hesitant hand from Hugh Hales.
Prisoner of premises is poetic but perplexing. Paraphrase, please.
Heck, we're poets and didn't know it. A premise is a statement that is assumed to be true and from which a conclusion can be drawn. You may have heard similar terms such as basic assumptions, scripts, programs, and paradigms. As I've said before, practically without our conscious awareness, each of us has built a framework to guide our life that is based on a limited set of premises. This episode is all about challenging our own premises. When we feel annoyed, angry, hurt, or some other emotion, isn't it based on some conclusion we have reached, often subconsciously? And don't we conclude based on some set of premises? I had judged my wife as insensitive or mistrustful based on the premise that she thinks like me. But when I assumed good intent and honored my own frailties, I corrected my premise by seeing that her words were based solely on concern. Endearment then replaced my annoyance. We can see that others suffer because of the way they think or their lack of knowledge. The same is often true of us. How do we proactively examine our own premises and adjust as needed? Since we don't know what we don't know, some tips would be to ask others close to us, read self-help books and others, including philosophy and Holy Writ. If you are religious, attend relevant seminars and talk with a counselor. I'm compiling an intensely insightful list of questions designed to empower you to challenge your premises. It was to be the crowning jewel of this season finale, but alas, I just spent 2 weeks fighting pneumonia again and Nikki is off to England starting Monday. So you'll have to wait. I'm not yet sure how I will provide the list or what my next steps are regarding the No Talk show. But some of my children want to make my insights more accessible, like highlight videos, captions, transcripts, other platforms, etc. Maybe posting the list will be part of that. Before signing off indefinitely, I am petering out my friends. I thank each and all of you for tuning in and express my love for you, even if I don't know you personally. Every soul, every life, is precious. You really do matter. Fare thee well, my friend.
Oh, you think it's funny?
That's so weird.
The sounds that you're making, huh?